Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of The Spooky Show. And tonight we've got the wonderful Anna Goodrich from West Yorkshire Paranormal. Hello and welcome, Anna.
Hello.
Tonight we have no Dan. He has cried off this evening. He's lost his voice, so we'll let him off tonight, I suppose. But yeah, we're going to have fun in his absence, aren't we, Eric?
Yep.
You can see Eric smiling already. Well, for those that don't know Anna, she is a paranormal investigator, a prolific paranormal investigator. And hello, William. Hello to everyone in the chat. Oh, we got to say hello to Annette, Noreen, and William. Anna works in a fantastic building. This is her normal daytime job. Forget about paranormal for a minute. She works in this beautiful building full of old books, full of history, and it's haunted, isn't it, Anna, as well?
It is, yes.
Now, let me start with the building itself. Like, how long have you worked there, and what is it you actually do there?
So my official job, assistant librarian, and I've been there now for 22 years.
Wow.
I know.
That's a good job to have.
It is. I am a little bit spoiled, really, working there. So, yeah, it's just a fantastic place. It's this wonderful building, wonderful books, wonderful archive, and there's just the people as well. So it's just kind of a bit of a dream job. But, yeah, usually people, when I say how long I've been there, look at me as like, you've been in the same job that long? Well, yeah.
Yeah, you love it. You love it.
Yeah, why not? No, definitely. But Anna, you get people that bring books in, like really old historical books. It's not just what is provided and what's already there, but people actually drop books off to you, don't they?
They do. In fact, we had a lady the other day. She's brought, I mean, it's not, in terms of as old as some of our books are, it's not that old. But she bought this old book on church organs because she wanted somewhere for it to have a lovely home. And so she gave me all the history behind it and everything and who she thought the owner was and why it was important. So we took that in from her. So she was super, super pleased.
Oh, so look, people are bringing in their own little bit of history and bringing a backstory with it, you know.
Yeah.
Do you sort of record all of that as well when you take these?
We do. I mean, we have to be a little bit choosy about what books we can take in because the ethos of the library was to collect and not get rid of anything. So obviously space is a bit of an issue. But yeah, so anything that gets donated, it always has a little bookplate in it saying who it's come from, and all that information is recorded because that is of interest. So.
Have you found anything weird and wonderful in any of these donated books? You know, when you sort of go through the leaves, have you actually come across like personal letters and things like that? And
yeah, I mean, we've just recently we found like little old tram stubs and things like that. So, you know, our little timetables and tickets, and it just sort of tells us the story about where that book's been, and you know, it's lovely.
Oh, that's so wonderful, that is. That's brilliant. I absolutely love that. Now, in the introduction, I don't know if you saw it, Anna, but I've actually called you a historian because I firmly believe that you are a historian because it's not just going to a place and some of your librarian techniques come into play because you actually research places and
yeah, I mean, well, you got to, haven't you? Because you've got to. It's just I mean, I can get fascinated and excited by all sorts of things. I get far too in depth, and I think people think I go a bit crazy. But you know, you've just got to find out about the history, what happened there, anything you can about the area, all that sort of thing, as well as any like reported activity, because that's also interesting because that helps you focus on an investigation as well.
Yeah, Irene's just popped up from Japan, so she's a historian as well. Irene is absolute fruit bat, but we love her, don't we, Irene? No, she's one in a million, Irene. So lots of love out to Irene and Japan at the minute, and Tim's in the house, and Rita and Nettie as well. Right, so you've been investigating the paranormal She's so lovely. That woman. I want to adopt her. As my mum. She'll laugh. Yeah, so you've been investigating for a hell of a long time now, Anna.
I think it's 7 years now I've been doing it.
And still enjoying it?
Yes. I mean, there's just so many places to go, isn't there? And you never really lose that passion for it, because even if you go to some places and you don't really get anything, it's when you do, that's what keeps you interested, and that's what keeps you wanting more and finding out more. And like I say, so many places to see, not enough time.
Don't tell anyone about my kookiness. Irene, we're all kooky together. Do you know, we should do a girls' event somewhere, just women only. Maybe have a man that sits in the car park as a security thing, but maybe we should do, all this paranormal. They do like paranormal days and ghost days and international day, this, that, and the other. But there's not so much really for the women in the paranormal. And I put you up there as one of the more prolific investigators, Anna, that keep your hand in. Yeah, you keep your hand in, you do the research, you don't mind doing the travelling, because there's not just you, there's a couple of girls in your team, isn't there? Should we give them a shout out?
There's quite a few girls in our team, yeah. In fact, I'd say we outnumber the boys.
Love it. Do you want to give them a shout out, the members of your team?
Oh gosh, I've got to remember all the names now. So, well, first of all, I forgot to say this. Jason said to say hello.
Oh, hello, Jason.
So now I've remembered to say that. I'll get that out of the way. So Jason, obviously, he founded the team. He's been doing it a lot longer. I think it's 12 years for him now. Yeah. There's Joanne, Lee, Amy, Andy, Sarah, Vicky, Sam, Chris, John, Michael, Laura. There's about nearly 16 of us, and I've probably not listed everybody, and I apologise to anybody I've forgotten.
Yeah, it's my fault that she's forgotten. It's not Anna's, it's my fault. So if they watch this back and they moan, just blame me.
Fran, I don't know. Fran joined fairly recently. There's Fran as well, so she's proven to be a really excellent team member as well. So
yeah. So, what draws you to the paranormal, Anna? What is it about the paranormal?
Well, I kind of always had, like a lot of people, I've always been interested, even from being really little. In fact, I'd got some old school books that I found that my mum had kept, and when I was 6 years old. So you can imagine the stories, and they're all sort of like, there's ghosts and monsters and all sorts in there. So I've obviously always been interested, and I think my granddad died when I was about 7, something like that, and I was always convinced that the house was haunted because I knew he'd died in the house. And for some reason, I always acquainted as well hauntings with scariness, and I did. All the way up until I joined the team, whereas obviously I don't now, but I did anything like ghostly and think was scary and something to be frightened of. So for some reason I was convinced that my granddad haunted my nan's house, and I used to get scared to go upstairs. But then I've had like the books. I had the Usborne, the Haunted House book. That was a huge influence on me as well. And then like as you go further along, getting into some of the ghost programs that were on TV, I never really got into Most Haunted. I was kind of more into the sort of like TAPS investigators. And now I find I don't actually watch as many as I used to do. I don't know if that's the same for you guys.
Yeah.
Do you, Eric? Do you watch them?
The only one that I ever watched was TAPS, and I guess the one with Amy and Adams coming back on.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But those are the only 2 I'd watch. I don't like any of the other ones.
Oh. See, I love Ghost Adventures just because they're so stupid. I just watch it for pure entertainment. I don't take it for anything real. But it's interesting, some of the places that they go to.
Although just recently I've been persuaded to start watching, I think, is it Mountain Monsters?
Oh, so she's getting into the cryptid side, Eric. Eric lives in, you don't mind me telling, do you, Eric?
Okay, go ahead.
In Wisconsin, and it's very famous for, do you want to tell Anna?
Beast of Bry Road.
Dog man.
Yeah, dog man.
Ooh.
I'd be scared to go down there, seriously.
Do you go investigating then?
Well, not yet, but I gotta wait for a friend of mine to get better so we can go. So
yeah. Have you, Eric, do you want to quickly tell Anna about, your sighting of the ghost cat and what happened?
Oh, my ghost cat? That's not really exciting of it. My cat Zena passed away, I think last year sometime. And both of my cats, I have 2 cats, and they'll sleep on the back of the couch. And then all of a sudden I feel this jump down, or this, they're walking across how you would if you have a cat walks across the bed to come near you, to be by you. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, okay, well, you get the urge to reach out your hand and pet the cat. Both my cats aren't there. They're back there. And
so Anna, have you come across, like, in your investigations, have you come across any ghostly animals like that, like pets or anything else?
Not in investigations as such. Although I'm trying to think back now whether anybody's caught anything on audio. I know I haven't personally, but I have a similar story about my little cat Beanie, who was absolute love of my life. And when he died, the day after, I heard his bell tinkling like he'd come in from the cat flap.
Oh.
And my dad heard it as well, so it wasn't just me. And we actually thought, oh, is it another cat outside? Was it Squeaky, which is my other cat? Could she be shaking her head? Was it that? So we were like testing it out, and never really got to the bottom of that. But only happened the once, and it was just the day after he died. But I love that little cat.
Yeah. It's amazing how we get attached to our pets more than people, I think, like my own family members, we were just saying today, my husband and I, that we were talking to the optician and she's going to collect her dog's ashes. And we were saying how, family members can pass away and you can cope with that. The minute a family pet passes away and you fall to pieces, that we seem to be quite, not that we're not attached to family members, but more attached to our pets than we are to people. Dan's in the chat.
Yes,
Dan's in the chat, so he's there. Hi, Dan. Hope you're resting that voice. Hi, Sarah. Dan, if you're not getting out of it, if you can think of any questions for Anna, put them in the chat and we will ask her for you. How's that, Dan? Coming down the stairs, a black cat brushed past my legs and ran ahead of me. Only when I got down and looked out of the window, my cats were all outdoors and windows were closed. It's funny. It's lovely when that happens. It's nice. It's a nice verification that they've come back to let you know. It's comforting. Yeah, I think so. So now, Anna, you've done a lot of investigations in the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we'll slowly go through your top 3, maybe 5, top 5. Okay, I might be kind and do 5. So we'll start at number 1.
Number 1,
your favourite that you've done and you're itching to go back to, or you've done many times.
I have to say, my number 1 is probably, it's so difficult when you have to start ranking them for different reasons, but my number 1 is probably Hellfire Caves.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what was amazing, when we went there, we thought, because it was going to be caves, that we'd get a lot of noise contamination, and you don't, because it's chalk, isn't it? So it kind of muffles all the sound.
Yeah.
And we were in the very bottom, so you go right to the bottom, and it's got the gravelly floor, hasn't it? And it was getting time to like changing over of location, so heard these tread.
Ooh.
Going hello, because obviously we thought it was the next group coming along. Tread, nothing, nobody there. Checked with everybody else. We managed to get that on audio, so that was pretty amazing. And there were lots of just kind of like little, to say that there wasn't noise contamination with the team, there was kind of lots of just bits of noise, almost like bits of conversation that you just couldn't quite catch. So that's really, and of course it's Hellfire Cave, so location-wise, it is a fantastic location.
The history there's amazing too, as well. It's a real good one. Eric, put that on your list.
Yeah, I wrote down.
You never know. Anna might take you there if you're lucky. If you're a good boy, maybe. You never know.
Yeah. I mean, we do want to go back, but obviously they're so expensive to hire, so you've kind of got to limit your expensive hires, and try not to get carried away because nobody would be able to afford to come out then.
Yeah, no, that is the thing, and the prices are going up and up and up.
They are.
So
Massively so. It's harder and harder to get like the cheaper, budget-friendly locations now. Yeah. I mean, most of them are sort of starting at 400 and 500, I think, really.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's getting ridiculous. So what's your number 2?
My number 2 is probably going to be the Old Nick, which used to be my number 1. And that's at Gainsborough. And it's an old police station, and it had a courtroom. The courtroom part is now a theatre. But I've done it twice now. And the first time I went, I must say I was fairly new in the team. I felt I was fairly new in the team. I was still like 5 years in, I felt new. But I was probably 2 years into the team. And I was feeling quite brave at that point. So I kind of built past my fear. And so it was towards the end of the night, and I'm pottering down into the female cells thinking, I can do this on my own. I'm super brave. I'm just going to go down here. So I walked down there, and as I'm walking back up to come out, I just felt like that feeling of being watched. And I'm going, don't be so ridiculous. Don't be so ridiculous. It's all in your head. And then right after, there was this massive crash, and I mean a massive crash. It sounded like a filing cabinet had fallen over. It was that loud. And I shot round the corner, and thankfully I hadn't actually been on my own as I thought, because just round the corner there was Sam, and he did it as well. So we thought, well, we were the only 2 people on that level. Everybody else was upstairs. So we thought, well, had they done something upstairs? They didn't hear anything at all. Oh. And after a little while, Sam persuaded me to do what an investigator should do and go back and have a look to see if anything had fallen over. And there was nothing that could have made that kind of loud crash that had fallen over. And that, to me, is one of my all-time experiences, really, because it was just, what could it have been? Anyway, we went again last year, and it didn't happen to me this time, but we actually stayed overnight. And there was me and Jason. It was early hours in the morning, so we were downstairs. I'd gone out to have a smoke. But we're on the ground floor. Chris and Joanne were asleep in the courtroom area. Both of them got woken up by a really loud bang, which nobody heard. Me and Jason didn't hear it. No, I mean, the other people that were on the same floor, they didn't hear it, but both of them 2 heard it. And we were trying to work out what it could be. The only thing that we thought it could have been was if you shut the door to the superintendent's room, give it that kind of level of noise. But if it had been that, me and Jason would have heard it because we were on that floor. So it's kind of the same phenomena almost, and no real explanation as to what made that. And it's strange how it's so loud when you hear it, and yet other people that are nearby don't hear it. Yeah. So that's why that was my number 1, but it's now my number 2.
Number 2. Oh, Dan's asking, how did you find the nuclear bunker in Kelvedon Hatch?
That was a really interesting location. I think activity-wise, for me, it wasn't so much. But then anybody that knows me knows I'm kind of like, I call myself paranormally dead inside because I don't pick up on things. I don't feel things, sadly. I think for me, I went so far into I'm not going to be scared on locations that I block it all out now. But it was a really interesting location. I would like to go back there.
Yeah, Dan had quite a frightening experience.
Really?
that night. when everybody was out investigating, me and Dan sat up on the base room doing a Ouija board.
Yeah.
And we had our eyes shut, and the planchette is moving, and I had somebody there just calling out the letters that it landed on. And I thought, well, this is moving too fast. And I just opened my eyes, took my hands off, and then Dan was just the only one with his two fingers barely touching it.
Yeah.
And he went, Vivian, are you pushing the planchette?
Yeah.
And I said, Dan, look down and open your eyes. And by that time, he'd taken his fingers off to see it was moving on its own.
Ooh.
And it frightened him to the point where he said, no, I can't do this. He goes, put that away. No. And he couldn't go and investigate after that.
Have you ever experienced that before? Because that, I mean, it's scary, but also pretty amazing that it's definitely moving on its own.
Yeah. But the thing was, the person that was supposed to be calling out the letters and the words it was spelling out didn't say a word. They just went quiet. Yeah. Dan,
I think for that one, you see, I'd fallen just before setting off. There's actually a corner near where Jason lives. It's now called Anna's Corner because that's where I face planted. And I'd got a little bit of a concussion, I think. So that also might explain why I wasn't totally myself that evening.
But no, so we did a little bit, didn't we, Dan? Not too much, but yeah. He says we were being monitored. Yeah, so yeah, we didn't do much, but I think after that, I think it put the heebie-jeebies up him, and it was like he was done then for the night because there was no rhyme nor reason why that should be moving on its own. You know, it was just no, he'd done by then. So let's get back to number 3. What's your number 3?
Gonna have to number 3. Let me think. So many places. I was doing a list of, because I thought when you sort of said about doing a catch, I thought I'm just going to list all the places we went to. A huge list. Number 3, I actually think I'm going to go for Sunderland Air Museum.
Wow.
Because I've done that a few times, and every time there's always been something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant location, and Keith, if Keith comes round with you, there's you always get some kind of activity.
Yeah.
I think probably just because he's there all the time, and whatever wants to interact just knows him and feels familiar. But yeah, Sunderland Air Museum, it's a brilliant location.
What's your most frightening experience you've had while out investigating with the team?
And
be honest.
I'd say probably it's the one at the Old Nick, because I was still new, and it absolutely petrified me. Did that, and Sam will attest to this because I put my torch on after that, and it wasn't going off. That was probably the most frightening. I think the more you do it, the less scared you get, because that's actually what you're there for anyway. So rather than getting scared, it's more sort of like a calm excitement.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find like the more that you do, the more you sort of open up to the spirit world? I mean, you've been doing it a while now, so you may have started and you might have been as psychic as a brick, but now think about where you are now to where you started. Do you think, or do you believe that you get more come through? You sense more, feel more, hear more?
You see, more? I think I went in the opposite direction.
Really?
And I've had because, and again, I think it is due to that. Because I used to get those feelings of like walking into a location and you'd feel something. And then because I wanted to conquer that fear of not actually going, I don't want to go in there, and just being able to go in there, that I've just gone too far the other way.
Yeah.
And I need to somehow find a better balance, I think. Because
it's not a bad
I know
thing,
I used to, and now I don't.
It's not a bad thing if you don't feel it. You just go in there and do what you do. Chances are more will happen.
I know, but you kind of it's kind of from an experiment point of view. It's kind of interesting whether or not that you can do that, because it makes you wonder: one, did you feel those things before, or was it in your head? Or two, have you just blocked it because you were going, all right, I'm not going to be scared, therefore I'm just going to march in. And it's a bit of a difficult one to experiment on, and
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful because that's very rare. You hear somebody actually being honest and open. I've gone the other way. I don't feel so much, and so what we can take from that is if you was to come out and say, I've just heard this or I've experienced that. Yes, she has, because she wouldn't lie to you. She's not, she doesn't normally feel this or, So if it happens, it's a good piece of evidence,
Well, you see, and then I say all these things about not feeling anything, and then I'll say, oh, I think something's just touched me. Well, that's feeling something, isn't it? But then I absolutely, at that point, will be like, well, what have I brushed against? Was it my imagination?
Yeah.
Good investigator there, right there. That's a great piece of investigating. Right, Dan wants to know, Anna, what is your favourite piece of kit?
Ooh, my favourite piece of kit. Well, you buy lots, don't you? You buy lots and lots and lots, and then some of it you decide a whole load of rubbish. See, I'd probably go for something simple, and my favourite piece of kit's the audio recorder.
Yeah.
Because with that, you can pick up so much, can't you? And you're recording what you're doing, so you can go back and check things. I'd like to say my thermal, because that was expensive. But I got one of those the flare ones that you stick under your phone, and I find sometimes the connection's not that great. And I think I'd have been better off spending that little bit more and getting a proper thermal.
Totally agree with Dan.
Yeah. Dan's in agreement with you.
I always check, and I'll even if it's something like, oh, it really must be something, I'll be like, afterwards I'll be like, no, there must be a rational explanation, and we will come up with it.
Charles Rudd is popped in from Texas, so he just says hi.
Hi.
We like your cowboy hat there, Charles. Have you got a horse? Couldn't resist that. So, Dan and I, when we go on investigations, this is just a new thing that we've started doing.
Yeah.
We try and prove that the place is not haunted rather than haunted. And if it's haunted, we will sit and discuss things if anything happens or we hear stuff or anything caught in the analysis, and we'll have a discussion. And then we'll still it's a heated discussion. We're checking at the time and then we're checking afterwards. But we have this heated discussion. Do you do that with your team? Do you sort of, has that ever popped up?
One of the most heated discussions we had was a photograph that was taken at the Edinburgh Vaults. So I'll say about the Edinburgh Vaults, it's not the exciting one that everyone thinks it is. It's the one that's above ground as a below ground, because the other one doesn't hire out. And it was a really difficult investigation because the nightclub's music was going for most of it. There were drunk people outside trying to get in. But anyway, we did the investigation, and it was, like I said, it was challenging from that point of view because you couldn't really hear anything, listen to anything. But lots of photographs were taken because it looked awesome. And it was Jason that had this picture, and you could just see like a black figure on it. And we spent afterwards, because there were multiple photos, not all taken at the same time, but of that corridor. But we must have spent a good 2 hours discussing that photo, trying to find every possible explanation for it. Now, we're still not 100% saying it is something paranormal because, you can't. But it's a very interesting photograph. But yeah, we went round and round and round and round on that one. So yeah, we do talk it out.
Oh, that is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. That's what I love. Anna, would you or have you been into the forests and looked at cryptids? And if not, is it something that you would do? Or are you just more purely
Not
for the
yet,
ghost?
but I'd like to.
Get that one on the agenda.
Yeah. So it's something I'm getting a little bit more into. And as I say, I've been given a list of programs that I ought to watch.
Put in there Alaskan Killer Bigfoot.
Oh, I think I've seen that one. Is that the one where they send the little team off and then they have a person comes in each week?
They go off to the island of Portlock and try and find out. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
We're waiting for a second season, so I'm trying to push it out there. Like, come on, let's.
Well, yeah, because it had a bit of a bombshell, didn't it, on the end? Didn't the building catch fire?
Yes, they've. We've had them on the show, and what I can tell you, speaking to them off air, was there was a lot more that happened, and it would come out in the second series. But I'm waiting for the next series to come out. So, yeah, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But I got hooked on that, and I had to binge watch it all the way through. I was terrible. I hate doing that, don't you, Eric? Binge watching.
Yeah.
It's like you don't move off the seat and go to the toilet in case you miss something, you know.
Or you're just like, oh, it's only 12:30. I can fit one more episode in.
Tim says, watch Elusive. It's a British one. It's really good.
I have to check it out.
I have to check that one out.
And if I can find anything up near your way, I'll send you a message and send you out. You and the team out, go camping.
I love it. Any opportunity to go camping. I keep trying to persuade them to go camping. I've yet to do so.
Yeah.
They're all a bit reluctant to rough it a little bit. I just can't understand why.
Really? Oh wow!
I've got tent carpets for my tent, so I'm fine.
So you've got you've got things like lantern men and will-o'-the-wisp and all that in the woods and the woodwows. Yeah, no, I'd be out there, especially in the summer months.
Yeah. Well, it's there's like apple tree wick. There's the barguest, isn't there? The black dogs.
Yes, the big sharks. Yeah. Yeah, you got to do it, Annie. You got to do it, and you have to come back on the show and let us know how your camping trip went, how it went, and who bottled it.
Yes.
You'll find that though. Sorry, Eric, I don't mean to do this to you, but as much as the women are jumpy and do get scared, but on the whole, you find that women are a lot braver than the men because the men just sit back. And the women go off looking and investigating. Is that something that you found with your team, Anna? Do you find that women are more proactive and will go after things, or not?
Well, yeah, I think. I mean, as I say, there's more women than men in our team. I'm sure Jason would disagree though, because he would probably. Well, he definitely would say the boys' team are better. So I'll get that in there. But yeah, we do. And we've got quite a different set of backgrounds and interests and styles in the way we investigate as well. I kind of do more of the recording and you know calling out and all that sort of stuff. And then we've got some team members that are more into things like the dowsing rods or Ouija boards, automatic writing and things like that. So we've got quite a lot of different styles. So it's the approach within each group that you know, as we divide it up, because we tend to put like-minded investigators with each other. It comes up with some interesting results.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. And I also think the energy of that the woman gives off is different than a man's. Dan's energy, I can't suss Dan's out. It's really weird because every time I go out with Dan and Jay, things happen, good, bad, whatever, things happen. But then we put somebody else in the mix, nothing. So, but Jay's like a woman anyway because he screams. He's put that in the post. He's put that in, and I scream. He's like a little girl, honestly. But, So Noreen says she records everything in case she misses anything. Oh, she's talking about the TV shows.
No.
She's talking about the TV shows.
Mm.
So who inspires you, Anna? Anna, who inspires you?
Oh, who inspires me? That's a really difficult question, because I get so focused on doing things that I kind of forget who it is that influences it. And
okay, well, I'll change the question. Who inspires you? One living, one already passed. It could be about anything, not necessarily paranormal, but who are your inspirations?
Who are my inspirations? Can we go down a Star Trek route?
You can. You can.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of always think of myself as being a bit sort of like, not anti-celeb, but I pretend that I'm not influenced by people. I think I'm very like blocky, aren't I, sometimes?
You talk about the Star Trek route. There's interdimensions, different dimensions in Star Trek.
Yeah,
so
true.
That could be an inspiration subconsciously somewhere.
Yeah, teamwork and all that as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm a massive Star Trek fan, so got to be inspired by Star Trek. Certainly, yeah. Picard and good old Captain Kirk, who I would love to meet one day. See, inspiration. There you go. I would love to go to a Trekkie convention and meet them too.
Why don't you?
Because I'd want someone else to go with me, so I wouldn't have to wait in the very long queues by myself.
Tell Jay, make yourself available on this day because we're going here.
Well, the last time I was considering going, it was the convention actually was on the same weekend as we were in Edinburgh at the Vaults, so couldn't go, could I?
No.
So
now a little birdie told me. I won't tell you what birdie told me. Well, actually, I saw it. You did an appearance at a convention, and you did a lecture, and you got up there and spoke. So, how was that for you? How did you find it?
Well, I was very nervous before I went up. I mean, I pushed myself because I was always very introverted and shy, and public speaking had not come naturally to me at all. To the extent that when I did my degree way back when I was a lot younger, you had to do a talk for that, and I just dropped the marks. I couldn't do it, physically couldn't do it. So pushing myself to do public speaking, I do that at work. We have to give tours and things like that. And I knew it was good for me, and I'd spoken about the subject before, but oh my God, I was nervous before standing up. Or sitting down, because I had to do it sat down because I had my I was reading it off a paper because there's quite a bit of it, and I don't do it enough that I can do it without notes.
Yeah,
and watching people go before you just do these amazing presentations without the notes, you kind of feel a little bit inferior as well. Just think, I wish I could do that, but I can't. I need my paper. But I did it. It went well. The only thing was 3 of my slides didn't work, but I mean, it's an amazing. This is a T-shirt I'm wearing from it. Absolutely amazing weekend it was. The speakers were fantastic. So I don't know if you've been to one before, Viv, but it's well worth a visit.
Do you know what, Anna? Those ones that do it without their notes, and yours sounds fantastic. Don't worry about them because they're making it up. Yours is the real deal, all right? So don't put yourself down. So yeah, you were better than a lot of them because
well, it was nerve-wracking as well, because even though you do, like when I do the talks at work, you're in your comfort zone, aren't you? You're in your own space, and you know the subject inside and out, and then you're in a different space, and it was a lot of people for me. I think that's the largest number of people I've ever spoken in front of. So yeah, but I did it, and it was good for me to do it.
Yeah, and you'll be doing it again. Not letting this fly. We got to push you out there, get you out there again. So Dan's going to piss you off now. So he says, I've met Patrick Stewart before he became Picard. So yeah.
My friend Becky, she works at Huddersfield University. She's the archivist there. She met him and shook his hand. Because he did his I think he did a couple of the tours for his new book, didn't he? And one was at Huddersfield, and the tickets went like that, so no chance. And then she sent me a message. She went, "Don't be mad, but I've met him."
Oh, that's awful, isn't it? That they do that, they're knowing
I
that he's your
know.
hero. They could have at least got a signature for you. What's going on?
Exactly. And I very, very, very nearly met him. This is good few years ago. There was Huddersfield Literature Festival, and I went on my own because I was determined to go see him. And there was a raffle, and I was one out when they announced the number. So close yet so far.
Oh. Dan says, I met him in East London. He's a very nice man. Dan, will you shut up now, please? Winding poor Anna up, please. Unless you can give her the heads up if he's going to be somewhere else. We don't want to know anymore, Dan. All right.
It'll be me. I'll be stalking him, won't I? Where is he?
Ned Druce, she's from hello from Aussie land, and I hope you're all doing well. So she's in Australia watching early hours of the morning. Yeah, she doesn't sleep much because of pain, but yeah, we wish her well. So what's next for you, Anna? What's on the cards? What you got coming up that you can talk about?
Well, I've just finished doing my ASAP investigator training.
Good.
So I would say I've just finished it. I've still got the written work to do because I really wanted to give that a go. So it's just the basic training that I've done. So that was really interesting because obviously that's really focused on just a proper scientific approach to investigations.
Yeah.
But in terms of what's coming up next year, I've just been booking some locations. So, and I've got Galleries of Justice.
Oh yes,
and I'm so excited about that one because that's been on the list for so long. So we're going to do that.
It's this little lady's birthday today, Mary Williamson.
Happy birthday.
She's all the way in Holland. She's a lovely lady. She's an asset to the paranormal world and the community, and she does a lot for a lot of people. So, Mary, we wish you well and hope you have a really, really good day, or you've had a good day, Mary. She's lovely. Dan says he loves the galleries. So you'll have fun
I've only ever visited, and I would just, I'm going to be doing it now. I'm going to be doing it. I'm excited.
I was going to tell you the secret of the naked man, but I think they've removed him.
I
don't think he's there anymore. But I'll tell you about that off air. I don't think we can talk about it on here. I think we'll get told off. Oh, she's sweet.
And then the other big one that I've got next year that I've heard lots of great things about, and I've tried contacting them before, and I didn't get any response. This time I have. It's the Royal Gunpowder Mills.
Oh yes, we know that.
So I've got them booked in at the opposite ends of the year, so we can spread the cost.
That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then coming up on Saturday, we're at the Commandery.
The where?
The Commandery in Worcester.
Oh right. Have you been there before?
It's got a lot of history, and it's somewhere completely different that we've never been to a location like this. So it's got a Civil War history. So I think it was the headquarters during the Civil War, but it's older than that. So I think it was a hospital before then, and obviously it's got all the history after the Civil War. So we're really looking forward to that as well.
That's going to be a good one. That's going to be a good one. Oh, I hope you get lots there. I really do. We need you back on the show to tell us all about this, and how you got on. I was going to ask you a question. That's right out of my head. Eric, have you got any questions? Have you got anything lined up?
No.
Oh, what's Ned saying? Ned says, could you please use 2 cameras when you go out in the field? So many investigators miss so much because it behind you. GoPros are not expensive. So I think some of the investigators that we know are now investing on these little cameras called Boblovs, like the police cameras that clip on your front and then put one behind you. So you've got front and back, plus you've got your handhelds and things. So I don't know. Has anyone in your team done that or ever think about that? Or?
I've got one of the little body cams, but I've only got one. But that's just reminded me, I was at one point looking at at the possibility of getting one of the 360 cameras.
Yeah.
So the kind of the ones you'd probably use more for security because you can do video as well, because I thought that might be quite interesting. But they're quite expensive, and I think some of them, depending on how many cameras, they'll either have a little bit missing at the bottom.
Yeah.
But I don't know how reliable they would be to properly document it, but I thought it'd be an interesting thing to do, because at least you can then cover everything, can't you?
Yeah.
Providing you can pop it in a spot that allows you to do that.
But yeah, it's a good thought though, getting these little, because I've seen these little cameras about 14 or 15 quid. Your memory card costs more than the actual camera. You just clip on somewhere and it's at the back. But knowing my luck, I'd do that and my hair would get in the way, so you won't get anything.
That's why I built a helmet for just that thing.
So you talked about the 360 cameras. Have you thought about the 360 audio recorders?
Yeah, well, I've also been looking, as you do, don't you? You keep looking at Kit. I have been looking. I mean, I've just got, mine's just a standard Sony one that I've got at the moment. And I've been looking at new recorders. But then Joanne, who's on our team, she's got one of those Zoom ones. And for some reason, it was really quiet. And so she just didn't quite get on with it and went back to her original digital recorder. But I've been looking, because you go down a rabbit hole then, don't you? I was looking at settings, because there's various settings, because really they're designed for if you're recording something or doing a podcast, in which case you don't want all the interference noise, do you? No. Which is not actually what you want for in an investigation sense, because you want it to capture everything. So whether it's a case of messing around with the settings, but the more high-tech the kit, the more complicated they are to use.
Yeah, I find YouTube's really helpful. Like, I didn't know you could do that on here. What happens if I press that button? That's me.
And I tell you what else I've got slightly obsessed with. Temu. Well, just like cheap bits of kit. I got this little does infrared recording, like a little binoculary thing, and you can use that to record as well. Except that it's handheld, so I was holding it, and all I've basically got is an image that goes like that. So it does need to go on a tripod. And it can only really focus in one direction, but it was cheap.
Dan says, what's that? They're 20 minutes from me, Enfield, Waltham Abbey. Gunpowder mills in Waltham Abbey he's talking about. And Mary wants to visit Enfield one day. And Tim said he uses a Zoom HN1. It's great. Nedrus says tempo is great. Just got on the correct site, as there are scammers. Yeah, you've got to be careful where you're going and where you're looking. So there's scammers everywhere. Absolutely.
Well, that's why I go to Amazon all the time.
And the answer to Dan is yes.
Yes. Dan, and no, you can't go. He's terrible. He tarts himself out. He's terrible.
Well, you never know. It's a big location. We might have a little bit of space. You never know. Once all our team are booked on, if we've got any space left.
Do you know what?
I can't answer that. Can you answer it?
Once he's there, though, you never get rid of him. So Are you all right, Eric? Do you want to go?
I can't. She'll get it. She's fine.
Okay, cool. Dan says he's in. You're not invited yet, Dan. She said you have to wait and see. Told you.
Told you. I'll be right back.
Okay. So, yeah. Where was we going with this? I've just lost my train of thought there.
Find out who it is.
Have you ever seen anything that's odd, or when I say odd, have you ever seen a spirit? Have you out on location? Have you seen something that you can't explain?
Now, my answer to that for years and years and years was no, and then it's now a possibly, because we did in February this year. We went to the Regent in Blackpool, which is an old cinema. And myself and Sam were in the little bit. So it's the old cinema, but it's now an antiques emporium. And there's what was a shop unit on the side of the cinema, and that's now incorporated into the whole thing. So me and Sam were just in this, that's where our little area was. And I wasn't expecting anything from it because it wasn't associated with the cinema. It was just a shop thing before it. So, but that's your location, you're in it. You do your thing, don't you?
Yeah.
And we had some people in the cinema up on the balcony, and we had some people who were on the floor above, and you had to go through the shop bit, the former shop bit, to get to the stairs to go up. So I was kind of like doing a little bit calling out, and then there was a piano, so I decided to play some keys, and I'm stood by this piano and saying, oh, well, if you want to play some music, then... And then I saw a figure, and it was a black figure, and I'll describe it a bit better later, because the fact it was a black figure doesn't mean anything. And I thought it was a team member coming back to go towards the base room. And my reaction was, it's a team member, leant out to sort of get a better look. Nothing there. And I experimented using Sam. Putting him at the distance that where I thought I'd seen it, because with it being an antiques emporium, there were lots of things around. So you could, if you looked up quickly enough, perhaps you could have seen something that caught your eye that made you think you'd seen that. But the fact that my reaction was, it's a person, it's somebody coming from downstairs, that makes me think that that's what I thought I saw. And when Sam went and stood back at the level where I thought I saw this figure, he wasn't wearing black, but he appeared as a black figure.
Yeah.
So it was more about the lighting than anything else.
Yeah.
But I definitely think I've seen something finally after 7 years.
Excellent. When you least expect it. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely wonderful. Dan's going on about Amazon being Scamazon now.
But I've never had a problem with them, so I'm...
No, I haven't either. So there you go, Dan. Right. We have got 5 minutes left. If anyone has an issue or a problem in their house, are your team, could they go and investigate? Could they contact you to come and help them? Are you a team that does that sort of thing?
Sorry, say that again, because I'm there.
If anyone has a problem in their house and they want it looked at, could they contact you, Anna, to come and investigate it?
Yes, we do that. So, and we basically have a process for it as well, because it's you get a lot of message. It'll just be like help, but you know what is it you need help with? So we kind of do it in stages. So we'll have, like, once they contact us, we'll send out a little brief form for them to fill in, just to give some details that way. And then we'll follow that up with a phone call, and then we can explain who we are, how we work, give them the chance to ask questions about us as well. Because it's a big step, I think, for people to actually ask for you to come into their home. It's not a minor thing. And there are so many teams that do it without thinking about the person involved, because even if it turns out to be nothing paranormal, which I always say is the best outcome anyway. It's about making people feel happier and confident in the homes. And yeah, we did once get contacted by somebody who'd had another team in, and they'd done a live video.
That makes me so cross.
Yeah, and it's like, it's fine if you do live videos, that's fine if you're doing an investigation, but if you go to a client, no. You got to be professional. How
can they contact your team, Anna?
So we've got our website. They can contact us via the website. And the email address is on there. I think I set it up so long, I think there's a contact form on there, but there's definitely the email address. We've been contacted through Facebook, through our page on Facebook.
What's your website address?
Sorry about that.
It is West Yorkshire Paranormal.co.uk, I think.
Like that again?
Yeah, I will. Hang on, I'm just putting it in here.
Yeah.
Ooh, West Yorkshire paranormal.co.uk. Gotta get it
That's
in.
a really interesting point about the mental health problems, because I've found when I get to the phone call stage, because not every team member also does this process. There's you've got to be doing it long enough. And I know when I first started doing it, I used to get very stressed because somebody'd want you to come round immediately, and you'd feel like if you couldn't, that you'd failed. But we do work, and we can't drop everything. And you've got to learn to get through that as well for yourself. Because you've got to look after yourself as well. But I've had some. Well, there's two that stand out to me that have definitely been mental health issues. And they were very difficult conversations. And you've got to be so careful as well, because they'll be wanting you to confirm what they think it is. And I can't confirm what it is. Because we've not looked at it yet. And you have to be really nice and calm and kind and explain that at this stage, we're just here to find about what you've experienced, and we just absolutely can't diagnose it. Because also the last thing you want to do is somebody say, oh, I think I've got a poltergeist. And you go, well, yes, it sounds like a poltergeist. And then they think, I have got a poltergeist, and get really scared. So you've just got to be really careful how you approach it and how you deal with people and what you say. And that really comes with the experience, I think, as well. But I had somebody, and when I spoke on the phone to them, they basically spoke in the third person, because they said that they'd had a ghost and the ghost had possessed them. So it wasn't that person speaking, it was the ghost speaking. And having a conversation like that for an hour, I think I was on the phone. And then, obviously can't go into too much details, but they said something later on that definitely was like, okay, it sounds like mental health. Yeah, it definitely is. That's probably the diplomatic way to say that, but it definitely was.
Or do you find the opposite, when somebody thinks that they have something, you go and investigate, and you're like, no, there's nothing here. You don't have any evidence. And they're mad at you for not getting evidence?
Yeah, I mean, you do, because sometimes people, I think, are fixated on the fact that it is paranormal and don't want to be told that it might not be. I mean, I was speaking to a lady for an hour, and she essentially contacted our team and some other people, and she was effectively conducting an interview to see who she wanted to go around to her house. And she decided in the end she didn't want people who would look at things the way that we did. She wanted a medium to go in. And again, that's absolutely fine. But that was really interesting, because it's like, usually people don't think they've got the choice, but she was out there interviewing.
Crikey. Just pay and have your reading with that medium like everybody else does, Why waste everybody's time? It's crazy. Well, listen, guys, we've run out of time. Anna, we could talk to you for hours. You do know this. So we definitely want you back on the show, and we want to have another catch up with you with some of the places that you've been to. So maybe another team, you never know, maybe it depends how you feel about it. Maybe you can get Jason to come on as well, or maybe we'll just leave him be.
I think we should drag him on.
I think we should.
Definitely think we should drag him on.
But wind him up about it first, though,
Oh, absolutely.
We can say this because we know Jason. It's been an absolute honour and a pleasure to have you on tonight, Anna, and we don't want you to stay a stranger. So we will keep in contact. And lovely. Eric too. Won't we, Eric?
Yep.
See? Bless him. Always put him on the spot. I want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us tonight and for the questions. And Dan, we'll let you off. You come up with some good ones there tonight. We hope that you can join us next week, where we will be speaking about all things spooky again. Whatever you're doing for the rest of the week, have fun, stay safe. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow with To the Grave and Back is on tomorrow night, and the Nick Files that's another show you can look out for. Friday Night Frighteners at the usual time, and we have a new show starting this Friday at 10 o'clock with a brilliant medium that's going to be coming on from the north of England. So it's another one to keep an eye out for. But thank you again, once again, everybody, and thank you very much, Anna. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Eric, you got last words?
Well, everybody be safe and take care of each other.
I'm going to try and end this stream. I can never get it right.